The Chicago White Sox had an off day on Monday and are searching for answers as they are 14 games under 500. After winning two series in a row, the Sox have now lost two series in a row and talk of another rebuild. And if their star shortstop really hates being in Chicago, has dominated the conversation. The second place Cleveland Guardians come to town as the White Sox start a stretch of 13 games against AL Central opponents.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong, die-hard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. White Sox take on the Cleveland Guardians on Tuesday. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Our White Sox had the day off on Monday, much needed day off. They are 14-28. You know, in years past, I think it was probably 2021, maybe even 2022. I mean, again, we have to remind ourselves, even though 2022 was one of the most disappointing seasons in recent memory, they finished 81-81. What we're dealing with right now is far worse. And I can't even wrap my brain around it and how we got here and why we're here and how everything that, could have gone wrong, has gone wrong. We talked about it on the previous episode. I mean, we've got theories and we got ideas of why we're here at 14-28, and it goes back, a while. But just the fact that this is the follow-up to 2022, and we're not even at Memorial Day. Wow, they needed a day off. But there have been seasons, I guess what I'm trying to say here, is where I didn't want the Sox to have a day off. It was like, oh man, no White Sox baseball today because they were playing so well and they were such a fun team to watch, and not the case right now. Much needed day off for everybody, players, fans. But we're here, got some stuff to discuss. Sox now, they've lost two straight series. Lost, of course, the series to Houston here on the South Side. And that came after that horrible series in Kansas City where they lost 3 of 4. In this easy month of May, they are 6-7. And, they've got a stretch here coming up that 13 against divisional opponents, 13 games now in a row against AL Central opponents. Now, obviously, the AL Central regarded as if not the weakest division in all of baseball, one of the weakest divisions. And again, that hasn't really helped the White Sox as of late. This will be the first series against the Guardians this year. You've got Detroit mixed in there and another battle with the Kansas City Royals, as well as another series with the Guardians. So again, like, the time is now. This is absolutely the time. What else are you going to say? You heard from Jake Berger and Pedro Grifol and Dylan Cease this past weekend saying the same kind of thing that we've been saying as fans and players have been saying. We've seen how we could potentially play, and that was Cease on Saturday. He threw a really good game, one of his better starts as of late. They put everything together. It wasn't a dominating win, but they won. Well, if you look at that, this is what we're capable of, Cease said. Yeah, you can do that. Any team can do that, but can you do that for, a prolonged stretch? I don't know. And that's what Berger was talking about. He had a good game on Mother's Day, hit a home run, and he's back now, hopefully feeling healthy for a while. Like we just got to keep grinding. We got to put everything together. And that's what Grifol has said. I believe in this team. I believe that things will bounce back. This isn't who they are. We just have to get everything going together and have it go for a while. I get that. That's the right thing to say, but can you do it? I don't know. On an off day, I usually, catch up on some articles that, I didn't get to, while there are daily games and doing a daily podcast and all the other stuff that life throws at you. So I caught up on some articles and the big Tim Anderson drama, which you've had to have heard about it. If you hadn't, I'll be catching you up in the second segment. But one of the articles that, kind of I read and it was from Paul Sullivan in the Chicago Tribune. It was from a few days ago, maybe over the weekend. And the article was entitled "Time for the Chicago White Sox to Redo the Rebuild After One of the Worst Starts in Franchise History." And that is something that, a lot of people are talking about nationally, obviously locally. That's the buzz of, well, if this thing doesn't get turned around soon by June or July, conversations need to be had about moving several parts to this team. And Lucas Giolito's name has been talked about as a guy that, well, the Sox aren't going to re-sign after the season, so they could be looking to move him if they're out of contention. So this is what Sullivan wrote. Still, the losing has been tough to handle, and even the players having decent seasons, such as first baseman Andrew Vaughn. Don't tell that to a large collection of White Sox fans, because he has received a lot of ridicule as of late. Vaughn has voiced frustration. Losing sucks no matter what you're doing, Vaughn bluntly said. No matter how you're playing, losing sucks. It's the worst feeling after a game. It just beats you down. And Pedro Grifol was commenting on the Sox place in the division during this article by Sullivan. You're probably not going to believe this when I say this, but I don't really look at the division too much, Grifol said. This is the team that I'm concerned with. We've got to fix our own stuff, our own troubles. We've got to improve in a lot of areas. Other teams can't win the division for us. We have to go take it. We have to improve and win the division. I wouldn't know how many games back we are. I know where our team is, and I know the areas of improvement and how we can possibly compete for a division. But I don't focus too much on other ball clubs in our division unless we're playing them. And that's not a bad perspective at all. That's probably very healthy. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I had my weekly Chicago White Sox podcast recently, Good Guys Talk Back. Been running that with my good friend Pat Hester, and we kind of talked a little bit about this in the most recent episode. Just how did the Sox crawl out of this hole that they've dug themselves here? 9.5 back as I'm recording this episode, and Hester, said something similar to what Grifol just said, and it's just, don't worry about how many games back you are. That you can't really, you can't do much with that at all. Don't even worry about June, July, August, September. It's the game you're playing. It's the series that you have in front of you. Win that game, win that battle, then hopefully win that series. You really have to, compartmentalize, the schedule. And Grifol seems to have wanted to do that going back to spring training, where he talked about, wanting to have these 5 to 7 day stretches where he was focusing on these things in small chunks. And that's what I think needs to go on right now. Worry about Tuesday, worry about how you're going to beat Shane Bieber, how you're going to prepare for him and the Cleveland Guardians. And then it's like moving on to Wednesday. And then, before you know it, maybe you've won a series there. And then well, let's move on to the next series I think in this article by Sullivan, Dusty Baker had a comment just on, since he was in town recently, and talked about, well, if the Sox, could, shave a game off of that 9.5, 8.5 back, whatever they were at the time of the article, if you can just shave a game off, every 3-4 weeks. And there's a lot going into that of, well, you're worrying then about games back, and that depends on what Minnesota, or if it's Cleveland soon, whoever's in first place. I think you have to go more what Grifol was talking about. If he truly believes in that, and if he can get his players to sign on to that, you can't worry about where we're at, how many games back. It's the here, it's the now, it's how can we get better as a ball club, and just these little victories, one at a time that hopefully string together to multiple. Sullivan wrote, the Sox have been talking a lot among themselves about what needs to be done. The team kept the media out of the clubhouse for 25 minutes after a loss last week in Kansas City, and held another clubhouse meeting before Friday's 5-1 loss to the Houston Astros. Injuries have been a reoccurring narrative, though, entering the weekend. 9 other American League teams had more games missed on the IL this season than the Sox's 209 total. The Sox know a continuation of the status quo increases the likelihood of a summer sell-off and puts more pressure on the front office and ownership and Grifol himself. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing that, everybody's discussing of, like, well, what pieces, who do you keep? What pieces get moved? Do you trust? Who's going to make those decisions? Honestly, right now, you have no choice in that. And it's a here we go again. How did we get here? I can't believe we're doing this, kind of cyclical thing. And the here and now is you got 3 with Cleveland, 3 with Kansas City, 3 more with Cleveland, and 4 with Detroit. And then you'll end with the Angels in May. But first things first, it's Tuesday night against Shane Bieber on the South Side. Did Tim Anderson say that he hates playing for the Chicago White Sox, or was he talking about the pitch clock? Maybe it was something completely different. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you, with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The White Sox play the Cleveland Guardians on Tuesday. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Okay, Tim Anderson conspiracy theories. I'm here for it. I don't think I'm going to do much good. I'm interested in it, and maybe it's because there was an off day on Monday. I was able to dive a little bit deeper into this and watch the video a little bit more. But this happened on Mother's Day on Sunday. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll try to prep this and make sure you watch this video, obviously after this podcast recording here, but I'm sure you've got your own theories. What does it even matter in the end? But we'll discuss here. This was from Fansided by Scott Rogus. In the bottom of the 5th inning, with the Southsiders down 4-1, NBC Sports Chicago cameras caught shortstop Tim Anderson standing on first base. After a wild pitch got away from catcher Martin Maldonado, Anderson didn't advance to second base as he was booed by the hometown crowd at Guaranteed Rate Field. Anderson said something that caught the attention of fans. And this is where Matt Crawford on Twitter, he had posted this video. So this was the first I saw of it. I'm guessing and assuming that Crawford originated this, posted the video, blasted it, and it is gone everywhere in such a short amount of time. So upon first glance, fans thought Anderson had said, "I hate this place." Chuck Garfien of NBC Sports Chicago confirmed that Tim Anderson was talking to Jose Abreu about the pitch clock at first base on Sunday, not what has been falsely speculated and reported. And then per Vinny Duber of CHGO, he said on their post-game show that TA said, "I hate this pitch clock." There was a violation during one of TA's at-bats on Sunday. Sox had 4 violations during that game. So, again, this happened on Mother's Day on Sunday. The video is absolutely everywhere. I mean, just Google Tim Anderson, honestly, at this point, and that video will pop up of him standing on first base next to Jose Abreu. He mouths something. He's shaking his head at first, and then he mouths something, kind of to Jose Abreu. It looks like Jose Abreu makes a comment. And again, I have looked at this video, I don't know, maybe a half a dozen times. And I've tried to see, well, okay, is he saying I hate this place, or is he saying I hate this pitch clock? Okay. I have no idea. No one knows. Okay. No one knows what he's saying, unless maybe Tim Anderson did make a comment and said I was talking about the pitch clock, but he's probably he's not going to come out and say, "Yeah, I said I hate this place, tired of the negative vibes, tired of losing, want to go someplace else. I don't think the Sox are going to re-sign me, and I want to go play and win a World Series somewhere." He's not going to say all of that. So he's most likely going to defer to the "I hate this pitch clock," avenue. But I guess if you think, if you're thinking in your head, okay, I hate this place, you can see that. You can see him saying that. Said it. I don't know if he said it. Do I care? Not really. I really don't. I don't care if he said that. It wouldn't be surprising if he said that. It wouldn't be surprising either way, pitch clock or I hate this place. Here's the issue. To me, it's just so unfortunate that this is the thing that's getting national attention for the Chicago White Sox. Everybody is talking about it nationally over the last 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it may be now. And not about how well the Sox are doing, or wow, they've kicked it into another gear. Pedro Grifol and his coaching staff have got this team playing so well. What a bounce back from 2022. And we're not talking about, okay, Cleveland's coming to town. How are we going to be able to stomp on Cleveland to stay in first place? Or maybe we're just a few games out, and how can we overtake them? That's not the conversation right now. And I know people like myself and other folks on social media will fan these flames, but on an off day, you don't have much to talk about. It is interesting, though. It really is. I can sometimes go down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, and there's no shortage of them with all the different streaming platforms, whether you're on Hulu or Netflix or wherever. There's documentaries, and I've wasted way too much of my time, trying to go through some of those murder mystery type of programs. This one, hey, I spent some time trying to figure it out. I can't figure it out. I don't know if I even care about it. It's just unfortunate that this is the attention that the Sox are getting instead of their winning ways. So, at the end of the day, will Tim Anderson be a 9-figure guy for the Chicago White Sox? Will they make him, the franchise and make sure he stays in a White Sox uniform? Depending on who you talk to, there's some people that'll say it has to be. If they don't retain Tim Anderson, I'm done. I'm absolutely done with this team. And there's others I know they're saying, get rid of him. So long, it's been fun, but move on. We don't need you here. It's really interesting when you get different perspectives, but He might not even make it through this season. Who knows? There were some rumors that the LA Dodgers could be interested, but I've heard some other theories on maybe they're not interested in Tim Anderson due to some of the vetting that they have done when looking around at his past and what have you. I don't know, but again, if you haven't checked that video out, check it out. Don't spend too much of your time, or do whatever you want. Honestly, I really I don't care. But I just thought I was going to bring it up yesterday in the previous episode, but we had a lot to catch up with over the weekend. When after a day off, I'm like, all right, I'll give this a little bit of attention here. Now I spent a whole segment on it, but it has gone like wildfire though. It is all over. So if you haven't seen the video, just Google Tim Anderson. It's like the first thing now that pops up. The White Sox did not fare well against Cleveland last year. Tuesday marks the first meeting with the Guardians in 2023. Can the Sox change the narrative? More on that in a moment. So Cleveland comes to town. Now, interesting here, Cleveland Guardians last in all of baseball in hitting. They are 8th, though, in pitching. And it seems like they can always churn out some arms, doesn't it? They'll let go of guys, and that's fine. We've got a few other arms that we can work with. It's fascinating to me. Josh Naylor, boy, he is a guy that the White Sox have to look out for as well. Jose Ramirez always, and it just seems like the Sox will always pitch to Jose Ramirez, and Jose Ramirez will say thank you and just eat our lunch. Josh Naylor, he really wore the black hat last season, and he's been doing it lately. According to ESPN stats and information, Naylor is the first player since 1961 to hit a go-ahead home run in the 8th inning or later in 3 straight games. You have to learn how to ride the wave, Naylor said. Sometimes it's not going to be going well, and sometimes it's going to be going off the charts, but you've got to stay even-keeled. This was the guy that had that rock the baby to sleep kind of motion after he would hit a home run, a long home run off of the White Sox and other teams. Naylor batting .330 with 37 hits, 4 home runs, 21 RBIs, and 18 runs scored in 30 games against the White Sox in his career. Yeah, those are good numbers. Those are solid numbers. And it just felt like last year, especially that series towards the end of the year in September, it was the Josh Naylor show. Shane Bieber is going to be on the hill. Right-hander Bieber set to start for Cleveland on Tuesday. Bieber 3-1 with a 2.61 ERA, has posted 3 consecutive solid outings, most recently holding the Detroit Tigers scoreless on 7 hits over 6 innings and a 2-0 win last Tuesday. Bieber has made 17 starts in his career against the White Sox, going 8-4 with a 2.64 ERA. That sounds about right. White Sox saw Bieber 5 times in 2022. Had one rough start in late July when he gave up 6 runs in 6 innings, and also 3 home runs. But the other 4 were really sharp against our White Sox. As of this recording, the Sox have not announced their pitchers for the series. White Sox were 7-12 against Cleveland last season. Probably no uglier series than that 3-game series in late September on the South Side. I was at 2 of those 3 games. Gut punch. Absolutely. Sox were 4 games back, I believe, of Cleveland entering that critical series. I think Elvis Andrus made some bulletin board type of, quotes, and Cleveland came in and just swept the White Sox, and it was ugly, absolutely ugly. Again, going back to the top of this episode, going back to some of the stuff that Pedro Grifol said in that Paul Sullivan article in the Trib, just try not to pay attention to where you're at in the division right now, if possible. Don't worry about how many games back. Don't even worry about how many games you are below 500. It's like, hey, that's done. That is all done. We can't do anything about that. We absolutely just have to change the way we play baseball in all facets. somehow we got to kick it into a different gear. Somehow, we need to regain some focus, some urgency. And Tuesday it starts. Try to get off on the right foot on Tuesday and then see what happens in the series. But you got 13 straight games now against AL Central opponents. Folks, thank you so very much for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. We are on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Pass it along to other White Sox fans in your life. Sox take on the Guardians on Tuesday on the South Side. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. Hey, everydayers, on the next episode, I will recap Game 1 of the Guardians-White Sox series. Hopefully be talking about a White Sox winner. Appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Morawski. Until next time, go Sox.